Oh, we're recording. Perfect introduction time. It's been a couple weeks. Sorry. To all who come to this happy place, welcome to another episode of Gettin Goofy Radio. I'm Stephen Bell, here alongside my always trusty co-host, Eric Kushel. What do the people need to know, Eric? What's up, man?
Man, we missed a week, unfortunately, so maybe not always trusty because some stuff going on. But man, happy to be back. How you doing?
I'm happy to be here. It's just a nice way to split up the work week and talk Disney, man. Talk Disney.
Sure, for sure. And as for those of you listening, and at the time of filming, we're getting there. We have a select few resorts open as we speak, which is awesome. Disney Springs has been rolling. A couple hiccups here and there, but the screenings are out. Everyone's getting temperature checked. They're wearing their masks. The restaurants are opening up, and it sounds like things are chugging along.
Yeah, and with that you get the good and the bad. So, like most Disney addicts, I've been scouring the boards via Facebook and other social media just to see people's reaction. And obviously, the vast majority of people are just super pumped to be back at Disney World. But you have those few bad nuts that can't help but say, I came to Disney World and pay good money. I'm not going to wear a mask, and be like, well, on the website it says wear a mask, so kind of know what you're getting into, right? But otherwise, it seems like people are just happy to have some of that magic back in their lives.
There should be no surprises, but people seem to be surprised and want to say it affects their air quality or whatever it might be. But I'm one of those who would be more than happy to be there, enjoying some of the magic, even if it's only half of it, and with a mask or not. But now we're seeing another uptick in coronavirus. So, who knows? As of yesterday, at the time of filming, Disneyland's opening date got pushed back, and it doesn't look like it's going to be opening in July anymore.
That was not a Disney call. That was a California call, right?
Yeah.
So Disney wanted to open, but California wouldn't approve a plan in time for Disney to open. So they're pushing forward with Orlando, which is the big kahuna to us. That's what's near and dear to our hearts.
Yes, sir. And yeah, that's even with the influx of coronavirus, we were able to go out and start picking some day dates, our park reservations for on that reservation system. And man, there was some hiccups. We could talk for 45 minutes just about the hiccups, and we got lucky, but it sounded like 99% of the other resort holders, or people with resort reservations, weren't so lucky. And
I still have some issues, right? Luckily, on the July trip that we likely won't end up being able to go on, unfortunately, we were able to get all our days in the park. But on the October trip that you have scheduled, that you added us to the reservation, I was able to book for my daughter today if I wanted to, but for my wife and myself, it still says I've reached my allotted number of days, which is absolutely not true, because you can have up to 14 days or 12 days, one of those two, but I wasn't going to reach that. But I'll just wait till tomorrow comes, and I will select annual pass holder days. And lucky for me, and like a lot of people, because of COVID, I have 1 billion vacation hours. So if I have to, I'll just go on a random Tuesday or Wednesday, and the parks are available to us, right?
Sure. Definitely. And as we kind of hit on, the July trip doesn't seem like it's happening. So maybe once we cancel those days, you'll be able to book the October. Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe I'll do that tonight. We'll see.
Yeah. But while we're talking extremely topical and happening news, we had another idea for filming, and I think we'd be remiss to not talk about the hottest topic on hand. And that's the refurbishment of Splash Mountain.
You mean Steven's favorite ride, Splash Mountain?
Exactly. Man, what news today? By the time you guys are listening to this, I'm sure you've heard of it. But as of today, the Walt Disney Company has officially announced that Splash Mountain will be rethemed as
The Princess and the Frog.
Princess and the Frog. Tiana's finally getting the love she deserves.
We're doing it. And I am thrilled. Splash Mountain is my favorite ride at Disney World by a pretty wide margin. I think if you've listened to any of our episodes, you'll always hear me talk about Splash Mountain. We've talked about my daughter literally making us measure her once every week or two for the past couple of years to see if she is tall enough to ride the ride, which we're there. But with that said, Splash Mountain is an absolute great ride that perfectly sets up for Princess and the Frog. Let's talk real quick. Let's actually talk real quick. My only concern, and let's talk about our concern first, and then move into all the great stuff. My only concern
we could
is the theming.
Yeah, we have 9 pros and 1 con.
Yeah, we have 1 con. So let's talk about the con. The con is that it's in Frontierland, and you know Disney, they bring the absolute magic. So they're gonna figure out how to have this thing perfectly themed into Frontierland. But other than that, and I think Disney will do a great job, right? Maybe they'll have a segue from the beginning of Frontierland to Princess and the Frog to Thunder Mountain, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be just fantastic. And I'm really excited to see what they do because they always do things so above and beyond my imagination. And when I see it, I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad I didn't judge this before it happened because it's always better.
There's plenty of people out there who like to judge before it happens. But then they walk in and it's the most magical thing they've ever done. There's no second guessing it. There's no questioning it. There's never like a reason to bash it after the fact, you know. But there's people out there who are gonna hate on any change to Walt Disney World. The purists out there are gonna have something to say about anything. And
Of course. Well, those are the same people that are like, you know, everything's changing. Bah humbug. Like, you know. Things change. That's the guarantee in life.
Yeah, and yes, I do get bummed out when if they were just going to tear down the Splash Mountain and do a dark ride of Princess and the Frog. You know, that might hurt me a little more. If they were going to tear down the Jungle Cruise and make a Zootopia attraction or something, that would hit me. You know, if they were just like completely getting rid of something, but I think the essence is still going to be there. You know, it's going to be cool is probably have an Easter egg, an ode to Brer Rabbit.
Sure. Just like on Winnie the Pooh, when Mr. Frog hands over the deed.
You know, there'll be something like that, which would be cool too. So I get
Toad. I said frog.
I get why the purists might be upset about it, but when it all comes down to it, I think this is a welcome change. I'm excited about it. I think Tiana has been extremely underrepresented in the park. Just her meet and greet's always been awesome. Their interaction in the parades and some of the princess gatherings has always been awesome. But now, like, one of my favorite things to do is at the park is resort hop, and one of those resorts that I love going to is Port Orleans, and being able to meet Louis, you'd be able to meet Louis, the crocodile, is so much fun. You know,
and I want to get into that, right? So you're talking about Riverside. Before we even get into the ride, let's talk about what can this do for Magic Kingdom?
Yeah.
Can we have beignets in the park now?
So
can we have a little Creole New Orleans in the park?
Have you been to Disneyland?
I've never been to Disneyland.
Okay, so they have a whole New Orleans, like where we have Frontierland. They have, I think they have a Frontierland as well, but they also have like a New Orleans French Quarter in the park. And they're.
I'll do this much for you. I've never actually been to New Orleans.
Well, there you go. So I got 2 on you.
Or New Orleans as the.
But so their Haunted Mansion is more of a Louisiana or New Orleans plantation than it is a Haunted Mansion from the outside.
Right.
And then you have the Blue Bayou restaurant right next door. So that's where you can get your beignets, your mint juleps. You know, you can get all these awesome creations there that we are just suffering in the Florida aspect of things. Because man, Blue Bayou's up there in one of the better restaurants in all of Disney properties. So heck, can you imagine if they were to turn the gift shop into Tiana's place, and have a little restaurant in there, or just a beignet stand? Can you imagine that? You have a meet and greet with Charlotte and Big Daddy LaBeouf. LeBouf, excuse me.
Yeah, Le Bouffe.
You know, you could have an awesome meet and greet right there. You could have some killer additions to the park. Yeah, like you said,
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily go with Frontierland, but as far as I know, that the perimeter of the park is Splash Mountain. What if they just extended it a little bit and turned that whole little nook into a French Quarter, if you will, or
yeah,
into a New Orleans? It doesn't have to be part of Frontierland. You put up some more swamp, like you take away some of the the thicket that when you go down the big splash and Splash Mountain, you get rid of that
yeah.
and turn it more into a swamp, and then you have a swamp barricading Frontierland and New Orleans.
Absolutely.
I think there's so many ways it could be about it, and you already have the riverboat there. That's about as New Orleans as you get.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what it can do is actually add to your point. It can add more to Frontierland.
Yeah.
Because me, never been in New Orleans. I'm a huge fan of the lifestyle that I've seen portrayed in New Orleans. Right, the Creole cooking, the home cooked savory stews and what? Obviously the jazz. My wife, she has to come in and help me out. I mean, just
Throw
giving
a
me
couple
the
guys
aspect.
in with playing the saxophone. You get Lewis playing the saxophone out there, man. Jeez.
Yeah. So I mean, that's before we even talk about the ride. So I think what it'll do is it'll add so much more new stuff to the park. And I really hope they don't just make it the ride. I really hope they take some of that land around it, to your point, and give us another little quick, not even a quick food service. Maybe it's something like the Spring Roll Hut. Give us a beignet stand. Give us.
Right near the corn dog stuff, or
What about a little gumbo, like a gumbo stand?
incredible. Like think about, so when a lot of people don't realize, Tom Sawyer, Tom Sawyer's Island's right there. Tom Sawyer floated down the Mississippi River. The heart of the opening of the Mississippi River is New Orleans. So you could turn, I forget the quick service restaurant that's on Tom Sawyer's Island that's open 3 days a year.
Right.
You turn that into a beignet stand. You turn Tom Sawyer's Island all of a sudden into a must do.
Yeah.
There's so many ways to that. You can integrate so many really cool things right there. Man, I'm just looking at some pictures now. Tom Sawyer's Island looks like more New Orleans than it does Frontierland. You have the railroad running right through it. Another aspect that's huge in New Orleans is just transportation in general. New Orleans being a hub, it's the biggest port in the country. There's so much aspect that you can really theme there. And I'm looking at the map now. I'll put a picture here for those of you watching on YouTube. It is nothing but land right behind Splash Mountain. And I'm telling you, there is plenty that you could do with that land to make it feel like, okay, you're going straight from Frontierland, you're walking into New Orleans. I think it's a welcomed addition. I think the change is going to be awesome. Just having Tiana, the storyline is great. I mean, Prince Naveen and Tiana's love story is awesome. You throw some spooky stuff in there, like your other classic dart rides. You almost always have that spooky thing, whether it used to be the Wicked Witch and Snow White. You always have that kind of spooky scene, or in Peter Pan, it gets a little dark. You throw Dr. Facilier in there, where some of his friends, his friends on the other side creeping up the walls and stuff. I think it could be awesome. And the length of the ride alone, I think that's part of the reason why you love it so much. The length of that ride is incredible.
I agree. So I agree. And I want to talk about how this ride and the current track actually fits the plot of the story, right? So I think part of the charm of Splash Mountain today, obviously the flume is fantastic. The water's fantastic. And that's going to be exhilarating regardless of the theme.
Sure.
Some of the charm Splash Mountain today is how outdated the animatronics are. It's just absolutely outdated, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because you look at that and you're sad to see some of that go because it's
Yeah.
so outdated. It's like original, just and I know it's not original. I know it was brought on in the '90s, but it's still a ride that you see and it just feels so old.
It's iconic.
But right, but what I mean, some of the track translates perfectly. And I've never seen the movie Song of the South because by the time I was born, I'm pretty sure that Disney had stopped distributing it in the U.S. because for good reason, for some of the things that that movie portrays and how it's portrayed. I
Yeah.
think it's absolutely appropriate that it wasn't. So I've never seen the movie. So my whole perspective of the movie Song of the South comes from the ride Splash Mountain. I, of course, don't associate the movie with the ride because it's one of those things that I've never seen, right? But I want to talk about the track
To be
on.
clear, just on that topic, sorry to interrupt, but not many people know that Splash Mountain is based on a movie. A lot of people just assume it when they see the ride. Oh, it's just a fox and a bear chasing a rabbit, and there is,
You're right. You're right.
especially the
And
young.
I wouldn't honestly, I wouldn't have known myself outside of current events taking place to make sure that. And I think it's the absolute right move. I think Disney is making the right move.
Certainly.
Uh, but aside from making the move, let's talk about the ride itself.
Yeah,
I think the track sets up
definitely.
perfectly for the plot of the movie.
It really, I didn't think that deep into it, but now that I'm thinking about it, wholeheartedly, it's awesome. Because there's no spoilers here. I mean, if you're watching this, you've probably seen the
I mean,
movie.
the movie's been out for 11 years. It came out in 2009. So
So, it starts a young Tiana, and I think I didn't read the whole thing that Disney released. I think it said the plot of the story is going to start after their kiss, if I'm not mistaken.
right. What'd you say? I'm sorry.
That the proper Disney release um, mentions that the ride will start after their kiss. If I'm not again,
Oh man. See, I was hoping that they didn't give us those kind of details yet. I was hoping that we could imagine. I was hoping that we could imagine where where this was going.
well, here, let me, for those of you, listening and haven't heard this news, let me just quickly jump through the official Disney post, if you don't mind. Today, we're thrilled to share a first glimpse at a project that Imagineers have been working on since last year. Splash Mountain at both Disneyland Park in California and Magic Kingdom Park in Florida will soon be completely reimagined. The theme is inspired by an all-time favorite animated Disney film, The Princess and the Frog. We pick up this story after the final kiss and join Princess Tiana and Louis on a musical adventure, featuring some of the powerful music from the film as they prepare for their first ever Mardi Gras performance. So there you go. So, we were thinking how well the track and the ride sets up, to the plot of the story, because anyone who's been on Splash Mountain, it's kind of a, it's not boring, but it's just a nice kind of calm
Yeah.
ride. You climb a little bit. So the movie, it would follow the movie very well. And I always thought, like, before I read this, the fall on the flume would be part of them as frogs in their final battle with Dr. Facilier. And then in the current ride, you go through and they're celebrating on the big riverboat. That's them then getting married and opening up Tiana's place. But as we see, this will be a brand new ride, so we don't know. This is them setting up for their first adventure for their first Mardi Gras performance. So this is all going to be brand new, which makes me even more excited. Because
So this is not. So let's get this straight. This is not going to follow the plot of the movie.
no, this is after. So they
So are we gonna get a Princess and the Frog 2 out of this?
maybe, and there's another bright spot, another pro that comes from all this. But so what we do know, it says it picks up after their final kiss being when Tiana and Prince Naveen finally kiss and turn back to humans, and then Lewis comes and he starts playing his jazz band. So
Yeah.
it looks like it's going to be her as a princess now, and not a little girl, a waitress, a frog, then a princess. It seems like she's going to start as a princess,
Yeah.
which I think
Which is fine, which is great, and we know that she's the moneymaker because Naveen couldn't keep his money right and had to come to New Orleans to try to get married. But I wanted to talk about what I thought the ride would be. So that's news to me. To me, what would have been fantastic, and I'll summarize it way quicker than I would have. I would have definitely talked about every single point of the ride if I thought, because I thought the movie was going to follow. I thought it was going to open with them reading the book. You know, at the beginning of the movie, they read the book, the Frog Prince. They're reading the Frog Prince, right? And then just quickly, that first little time you go in the water, and that first little drop, real quick drop right off the bat, is just an introduction from the childhood to them being in the shop where they offer her to sell the beignets, where she's got enough money to now open her restaurant.
She's talking to the Labousse.
Right. Right. And then Naveen gets in town, and Shadow Man starts following around, Dr. Facilier, or however you say his name, starts following them around and offering them deals. And then that first steep drop would be where the kiss happens. They turn into frogs.
Yeah.
And then inside Splash Mountain itself would be the whole experience on the bayou where they meet Lewis and they learn about jazz music. And they learn about all these things, and they've got the what's the bee's name, or the bug's name? Not the bee.
Yeah, he's
so he's part of the ride as well, and he's with you the entire way.
Yeah,
and then
cousin Randy.
Yeah, cousin Randy. and then ultimately the final drop is when they find the solution to the issue and they get turned back into humans. And then obviously when you land, you go through the outer part, and then the last bit of the movie, the ride, when they're singing, where they used to sing Zippity Doo-Dah, would be in the restaurant where they're serving food in the restaurant. That's, to me, kind of the progression of what the movie could have been as part of the ride. But you're saying this ride is going to start where the movie finishes.
So this is all brand new reimagination. It's all brand new reimagineering that we don't know. So they're coming up with this story, brand new stuff directly from the Disney blog post. So it's I think it's going to be awesome because it is now brand new. It sounds like they're bringing back the original voice, Anika Noni Rose. It sounds like they're bringing her back to voice it, which is awesome. And I mean, it's similar to, it sounds like it's going to be similar to Frozen, where Frozen's not a step-by-step story like Peter Pan or Ariel, anything like it's not going to be like a step-by-step story, but more like Frozen. That attraction's not the storyline. It's just more following the characters that we love.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it, because now you don't have to stick to something particular. You can jump from scene to scene. Have Lewis prepping, you throw in different riverboat scenes. I mean, because a lot of that scenery is already there. You could just literally pluck out some of those animatronics and go right along with those. But we know Disney, they're not going to do that. They're going to make
right.
And I mean, I think it's awesome, man. Now that there's a new story to it, I'm even more excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Even things to me, what's important is following what's going to happen to the flumes, right? Right now they're logs. That doesn't really fit in. How are they going to redress the flumes? I'm excited to see what they do with those things.
So in the blog post, they are still logs. They look more like moss covered and things, but I mean, it is a bayou. So, and they do go on a log raft at one point in the movie, if you remember. So, and that's one of those like more Tom Sawyer log rafts, or like logs put together like a proper raft. But I think that could be reimagined into, looking more swampy than what the current ride vehicle is. Or heck, what if they turn it into like a proper like fake riverboat or something? That'd be
great.
I think we're on the same page that this is a welcomed addition, And to me personally, on top of just how awesome I think this ride's going to be, the additions to it could be so cool. The
Oh,
venue,
absolutely.
jazz music, the maybe a Tiana's Place sit down restaurant. I mean, the only place you can get there right now is on a couple of the cruise ships. So if you got that in the parks, that would be, especially if you made it like a signature dining restaurant, which Magic
Weren't
Kingdom,
they working on weren't they working on a Princess and the Frog restaurant?
it was always kind of rumored, and then it only ended up ended in the cruise ships. So if you can add another signature dining restaurant now to the Magic Kingdom, other than just Beauty and the Beast or Be Our Guest and Cinderella's Royal Table. You throw Tiana's Place in there, have another signature dining restaurant on top of all this. To me, it's a home run.
And I think, I mean, to me, it means more than just a new themed ride, right?
Definitely.
If you think about the evolution of the movies in Disney, a long time ago they announced, oh, we're not going to have any more princess-focused movies. We're only going to go with the Pixar animated films from now on. We're not going to have any more of the classic, hand-drawn illustrated movies.
Yeah.
The Princess and the Frog was the first regression back. Not regression, that's a bad word for it. The first move back to the hand-drawn movies. I love them.
Yeah.
I am a huge, huge fan. I love the Pixar films too. Don't get me wrong. I love the Pixar films. I love that. I love the animated, computerized films.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, there's something so nostalgic about the hand-drawn, or what looks like the hand-drawn films.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that we're now, with all the new Pixar films, with all the new animated films, with all the new films that are, computerized and more engineered via the computer, a classic drawn film, with the music, the everything that goes with it, is going to be represented in the park on the scale of a ride as massive as Splash Mountain. Like I said, Splash Mountain is not just the run-of-the-mill ride that they're resurfacing. No. Splash Mountain is my favorite ride, and I know that I speak for other people when I say it's one of their favorite rides, if not top
millions, 3. Man. It's such an iconic, amazing attraction. It's just,
and to give it to Tiana, awesome, who is well deserving. And I think it represents an entire group of people that hasn't been represented via rides. And I'm very, very excited about what this means for inclusion and representing everyone.
Diversity, representing more. It is. I think it's awesome. I mean, we have, so you had the newer generation, those hand-drawn ones. You had, Mulan, Lilo and Stitch, and I want to say Princess and the Frog was probably the last one, like the last.
Well, that's what happened, right? Mulan, Lilo and Stitch happened in the 90s,
and then Toy Story.
And then they said they're never gonna, not never, but they said the strategy going forward would be Pixar type based, and I keep saying Pixar, but those type, you know what I'm talking about? That
like Toy Story,
and then in 2007 or 8, they announced we're gonna go back to doing the classic illustration, and I think Walt Disney would be extremely proud of the decisions.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Tiana is like, just in her as a individual, like she's someone, she came from nothing, like to be able to end up where she was, like that's a great story. And it's one of my favorite movies. And now with Disney Plus, being able to watch it on repeat, so my daughter's favorites were Frozen and then Zootopia, and now Princess and the Frog is on all the time. So now being able to tell her, hey, guess what? Princess Tiana is getting her due. She's getting what she's been waiting for. And I think it's going to be an awesome addition. And I know I'm speaking for my family, and I'm 99% sure I'm speaking for yours, that heck, hopefully we get one more ride of the throwback, and then give me 1,000 more rides on Princess and the Frog edition of Splash Mountain.
I love it. I love where it's going. And Ellie, your oldest, doesn't want to ride Splash Mountain because the big drop. This might be the game changer for her.
She's ready. I showed
Let's go.
We did a virtual ride on it on the TV in a hamper, and I showed it to her, and how excited Emma Kate was. And now that she's tall enough, she was like, "Let's go, let's go!" So she's excited. She's ready.
Yeah. So we'll likely have to wait. I would imagine it's going to be under construction for a while. I'm not sure when they will actually stop running the ride.
Yeah,
Uh, but the maiden voyage, man, I
yeah,
can't wait.
we'll be there for it. Listen, dude, like we said, we had a couple other things to talk about, but we thought this would be a great conversation to have, and I'm excited, and I know you are. So, listen, I think it's a welcomed addition, and I think I speak for most people out there that we're all excited about it. So, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to us, hit that bell notification so you get noticed when we put out a video. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, / Gettin Goofy or Radio Goofy. Send us an email if you have some questions for us. It's radiogoofy@gmail.com. We'd be happy to answer some questions or some topics, whatever you have. So, with that being said, man, I think we're signing out.
Yeah, just keep on having fun and getting goofy for us. And remember, just love everyone, man. Love your neighbors. Love everyone as yourself, guys.
There you go. You said it best, buddy. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good time. See ya.
Bye.